What's up? It's the Political Free Agent Podcast. And we're back with the same computer, just a slightly different setup. I had to reformat this whole thing and wipe it and get all this stuff. So it was a little bit jarring, I guess you could say, trying to get all my computer systems back up and running. Uh, just checking my audio over here on the live stream. So it was a whirlwind, man. This weekend was something else. I thought, yeah, I could knock this out on Saturday. All right, so we're good to go. I thought I could knock this out on Saturday and just be like, all right, cool, get it done, transfer the files, get them moving, reinstall. I'll be good to go for the Sunday episode. Nope, didn't work out like that at all. I found it interesting that I understood why it was happening, but basically transferring to a external hard drive over a slow connection is just not going to work with the old USB. And it took me all of Saturday. So we actually traveled back home, which was great. We were able to get back home. Uh, Funny story. It's going to sound weird, but my cousins got married. Yeah. Oh, let me explain. Let me see. You already judging me. I can see it. I can see you judging me right now. Uh, but my cousins got married on opposite sides of the family. Okay. Before y'all get ready to bring out the jokes about country folk, they're on opposite sides of the family, so they're not family. But one side of is from my mom's side, and the other side is from my dad's side. And so, it was cool. It was cool to be able to see them, tie the knot. Two people who just seem like, just salts of the earth type people. Just very, very, very nice people. And if you're watching, we call my cousin Nunta, named Justin. We call him Nunta. If you're watching Nunta, I'm never going to say this again because you're going to hold it against me. But he is a really nice guy, and he can't barbecue to save his life. So I hope he doesn't cook for his wife ever. Um, but, it was a great ceremony. Is at a Catholic church, which is different, didn't grow up Catholic. So, experiencing, that sort of thing. My wife was sitting there and was like, why didn't we sit down when we got married? I was like, well, we're not Catholic. But it was a beautiful ceremony. They got in, got out, and it was really, really good to see my cousin. So, he's my second cousin. So see his mom, my first cousin, crying and his auntie crying, just being so happy and stuff like that. That was cool. It was real cool to see that and to see their joy for what was taking place. So that was awesome. Then I got to see the family from my mom's side that I hadn't seen in a while. Some I went to school with and things like that. And so it was cool. That was a good time. Then also, we were there for a funeral. So condolences out to the Brown family, and Miss Gladystine had passed away, and it was just one of those families that 13 kids that end up having kids, and it's just it's very similar to my family, a very big nucleus, and it's just people that you have a good time when you're around them, right? Some of the characters, like if you're ever around me and I start telling stories about like my time in Goliad, which is a town here in Texas, if you ever hear those stories, it's wrapped around the Brown family, right? One of my best friends is a Brown. My brother's married to another Brown from another set of Browns down home, and so anyway, hilarious family. great people, and so we went to show our respects at the funeral. My wife actually is kind of like a honorary family member because her mom was like an honorary daughter sort of thing. And so yeah, it was really good to see good people. The funeral is not the ideal place that you want to see and reunite with people and friends like that and stuff, but you want to show your respects. The afterwards, the repast sort of it back at the house is whenever you start getting all the characters coming out, and just it was just really good to be around those people again. So anyway, all throughout that day, I have my MacBook with me. That was a long like tangent, but I had my MacBook with me the whole day, and the whole day, like we go into the funeral, and I leave, my charger plugged up in my truck, and I have the files moving, and it's just crawling. Do that repeatedly throughout the day, and even on the way home, I'm doing that repeatedly on the way home. Sunday morning, I get up and it's and mind you, this is a 2.5 hour drive. So we left that morning 10 o'clock ish. I'm doing this from about 8:30, 9 o'clock till about no, actually I started about 7 up until about 11 o'clock on Saturday night, and it's just taking forever. And mind you, I have a lot of files, videos, and a bunch of projects and stuff that I worked on. So all right, I get it, right? Like it's gonna take a little bit, but that was exorbitant. So I finally get that done, and I'm thinking, all right, on Sunday, wake up, install, the new system, get up and get it rocking. And oh shoot, I just realized I forgot to set the episode title. Give me 1 second. Let's get this set real quick. Episode 120. Let's call it all the news. We'll fix that later. All right. So again, it all ties into the story because I don't get anything set up and it's still working on reinstalling, and Mac is taking forever to reinstall the operating system. And by the time it got close to 2 o'clock, it had finally, got back reinstalled, and I now have to put all the software back on. So anyway, it's been a journey Saturday. Yesterday was still doing it. Today I'm still finding a few things I have to put back in place. Even right now, right before, that's why we went live a little bit late. Getting ready to go live. I don't have the little bug down here with the logo. I'm like, shoot. I forgot to test the mic delay on it to make sure the audio was timed. Like all these little things. So it's just been like harebrained getting ready to get back into the groove of the podcast, and just work in general. It's just been a little bit hairy getting back into work in general as well. But we're back, and hopefully we don't have the poor performance like we had the last episode with Roger. Hopefully, me reformatting my whole system, starting fresh. Hopefully that helped fix some of those things. It's looking decent. I'm watching it on the YouTube over here on TV. It's looking decent, but I do see some slight delays. So it seems like there's still some things I need to work through to get this kind of going. But I'll figure that out before Sunday's episode. All right. Now, it's not like there's been a lot of news going on, right? Trump's out of office, so there's not a lot to talk about, right? Yeah, nah. It's plenty for us to dig into. And it's going to be one of those things that, as we kind of navigate through what's going on with, the whole left-right sort of paradigm, you're going to start noticing something. And this is something that, like, this is largely why the podcast exists anyway, is because I got tired of seeing what was going on with the hypocrisy of all of this stuff, right? And it was essentially, you pop open the news, you're watching the news, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not true, right? And so I'm like watching the news kind of like a sports show or something. And that's when I started realizing, man, these people are just selling us a bunch of wood nickels, is what it boils down to, right? They're playing us against each other. They're playing this whole left right paradigm sort of thing, right? They're really just trying to get us to not pay attention to the things that are, really important, right? And there's a sidebar. There's a video you should go watch from the Jimmy Dore show, and he interviews somebody from the Boogaloo Boys. And in there, he's kind of talking about, and we're not going to dive into the whole meat of it or the Boogaloo Boys or any of that, but he's talking about how the Boogaloo Boys, what was it? Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, BLM, and Antifa were all working together to fight the government in these particular ways, right? To basically deal with like gender inequality and, like all this sort of stuff, like, racial issues. With Breonna Taylor, he mentioned there was another one that I think we had talked about him, but it was, I think in Virginia, another person who had been no knock raid killed. And, so there was all these like areas where they crossed, and the Boogaloo Boys was doing, they actually did security for some BLM events and stuff right? Like, so there's these cross sections of these organizations that are working together, right? And that's what they don't want. They don't want us getting along and working together, because who would we work against? Them. What do they require? Power. That's all they're looking for. They're looking to retain power, and that's it, right? So this, I've been waiting for this one, and it's been interesting to see how fast this actually happened. But the Republicans are already trying to impeach Joe Biden. Now, I want you to pay attention to something very specific about this image, and let me zoom in a little bit here. Do you see the date? Do you recall? Are you old enough to remember when Joe Biden was, officially the president? The inauguration was on January the 20th. On January the 21st, Marjorie Greene walked her happy tail into a hornet's nest by saying that she was going to impeach, or put up articles, basically, to impeach Joe Biden for something that he did back in 2012, I think is the argument. Let's see, 2012. There's another image here. They don't put the date in here. Oh, 2016. There you go. All right. So I'm not going to litigate all of the stuff about the Ukraine scandal or any of that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go through all that right now. This is a completely baseless claim. There's nothing to this whatsoever. Nothing. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing to the Ukraine scandal. What I'm saying is there's absolutely nothing to this particular impeachment. But, pew, 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 pew. The same party is saying we shouldn't deal with Trump because he's now out of office. We need to forgive and forget, or at least forget. Maybe they're not saying forgive, but they're at least saying we need to forget. And that to me is just hilarity on another level. That your party is going to try to impeach somebody for something that happened in 2016 when he wasn't president, he was vice president. And you're going to try to impeach him right now, all at the same time saying we don't need to deal with Trump anymore, who was already impeached, but they're now doing the Senate trial, saying we don't need to deal with Trump anymore because, well, we just need to move on. Reconciliation. We just need to, you know, we need to just kind of have this thing, let's just move forward. Let's just kind of start fresh. What? What is happening here? What is happening here? What's happening in America when this is the type of output that we get from our elected officials? Now, mind you, this is about the Republicans, but it doesn't stop with them, right? It doesn't stop. You're going to find very quickly that the minute something pops off and the Democrats have to defend Biden, like in a legit way, defend him, they're going to turn 360 and they're going to be a completely new or have a completely new defense, just like the Republicans did when Trump came into office. Now, all of a sudden, impeachment comes up. They don't want any, they don't want to actually have any witnesses in Trump's first impeachment. They didn't want witnesses. But you rewound the tape just a little bit, right? Like, just go back and watch while impeachment was going on. We covered all of this. You rewind the tape, and the same Republicans were out here. They were basically like, hey, we need to have these witnesses. We have to do this because Bill Clinton, he lied, right? Now, a lot of people think Bill Clinton was impeached because he was having sex in the Oval Office, and cheating on his wife. No, it really had nothing to do with that. They asked him, did he have sex with Monica? He lied, and that's why he was impeached, because he lied. That was it. But then when you fast forward to Trump, all of this stuff about trying to impeach over a phone call, right? Like, this is what I'm saying. They flip, and as soon as something happens, you're going to see the Democrats do the exact same. I can almost get, like, just write it on the calendar. What's the day? The 26th of January, 2021. Write it on the calendar. John Bland told you the Democrats are about to flip as soon as something pops off and they have to truly defend Joe Biden. The Democrats are going to flip. Can guarantee it. All right, so along the lines of impeachment and major news surrounding what was going on with the election, if you recall, everything that was happening, we had essentially Rudy Giuliani out here saying Dominion, 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 along with several others who were saying Dominion, Dominion, Dominion. And let me bump this font up just a little bit so we can get a little bit more text on the screen here. Dominion has now filed a $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani. This is from Axios, for those that are listening. Just a reminder, we use Axios because they cut to the chase. It's not a bunch of filler and fluff trying to get you to see a certain perspective. They kind of give you the details and lay it out for you. So Dominion Voting Systems filed a defamation lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani on Monday, seeking $1.3 billion in damages for his demonstrably false allegations about the company's voting machines. This is why it matters. Giuliani led former President Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the election and spread the baseless conspiracy theory that Dominion voting machines flip votes from Biden to Trump. From Trump to Biden. Another one of Trump's allies, Sidney Powell, is also facing a defamation lawsuit for falsely claiming that Dominion was part of an international communist plot to rig the election. And that was just like, she went way out there, right, with the whole, release the Kraken. She was going to release the Kraken. And she ended up coming up with nothing. But she was talking about Hugo Chavez. And I mean, I mean, she bringing in dead people into the conspiracy, and like it was ridiculous. So anyway, the lawsuit against Giuliani is based on more than 50 statements he made at hearings, on Twitter, on his podcast, and media appearances, including after Dominion sent him a legal notice calling on him to stop. Giuliani did not immediately respond for comment. Here's what they're saying. During the court hearing contesting the results in 2020, Rudy admitted that the Trump campaign doesn't plead fraud and that this is not a fraud case. This is what Dominion wrote in a 107-page lawsuit. Although he was unwilling to make false election fraud claims about Dominion and its voting machines in a court of law because he knew those allegations were false, he and his allies manufactured and disseminated the quote-unquote big lie, which foreseeably went viral and deceived millions of people into believing that Dominion had stolen their votes and fixed the election. Now, this is, well, let me finish reading the last part here. As a result of the defamatory falsehoods peddled by Giuliani in concert with the other like-minded allies and media outlets determined to promote a false preconceived narrative about the 2020 election, Dominion's founders and employees have been harassed and have received death threats. This is from the quote-unquote the right, who is the civil side of politics, right? Right? They don't do this stuff, right? They don't storm the Capitol. Somehow or another, that was Antifa who did all that. That wasn't the right. They don't do that kind of stuff, right? They don't do it. But they're receiving these death threats, which Georgia election officials also received death threats. And, you know, like it goes on, right? Like the Michigan governor received death threats, and they tried to kidnap her so that they can go ahead and kill her. Like that, it goes deep down the rabbit hole, proving the point that party does not make you less violent. People are gonna be people. Anyway, Dominion has suffered unprecedented and irreparable harm. Dominion lawyer Tom Clare said on a press call Monday morning that the company may move forward with additional lawsuits. When asked if former President Trump could be subject to a future lawsuit, Clare responded, "We're not ruling anybody out, and nor should they." This, like when they say irreparable harm, like think about it. The people that have been peddling this have convinced an entire population on the right side of the political spectrum that Dominion stole the election by flipping votes. It doesn't matter that they went back to the paper, right? It doesn't matter that they recounted everything. Doesn't matter. None of these facts matter. The same machines being used in other states that Trump won, they don't care about those. They care about the swing states. Those are the important ones. We got to focus on the swing states. All right, cool. The fact that they pushed all of these claims, they have basically harmed Dominion. Like, can you imagine 2022 comes out and all of a sudden you hear Dominion voting machines, you know, or let's just say you walk into the booth and you see it's a Dominion voting machine. Like, if you're from the right, what do? Do you vote? Do you not? Because you were told that these voting machines flip the votes. What do you do? So, do the states sign up for Dominion next time? They had numerous states that they serviced this election cycle. So you could have potentially, based on claims that you don't have anything to back them up, right? Now let's put this into perspective. The whole time this stuff was going on, I stated, if they have something, I look forward to seeing it. Show me. I want to see the proof of all of this stuff that's happening. Has anybody seen it? Right? It was one thing after another. Court cases. They didn't want to win them. They just want to get this to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court sees it and they're like, this is trash. In legalese. They said it was trash in legalese. Right? So, like, all these things happen. And I'm not at all saying that there is no fraud in the elections. We have on video admitted Trump supporters voting twice, right? We have two elections ago, I think it was 2016, we have in Tennessee a man who was doing ballot harvesting. Happened to be a Republican, doesn't matter. They all have some sort of scheme where they're doing something. This kind of stuff happens all the time. That's why Arizona did a recount, came out the same. Matter of fact, Georgia, I believe, did 3 recounts, came out the same. The Trump administration or Trump campaign paid for a recount in, was it Michigan or Wisconsin, one of them? I think it was Wisconsin. Well, let me say, they agreed to pay for it. It was $3 million and they hadn't paid last I checked. But that was a few weeks ago. So maybe they did pay up now. I mean, they raised hundreds of millions of dollars. The least they could do is pay their bills. So they did a recount, came out the same, right? Now, from the tech side, I get it, right? I get it. You punch in something and there's possibility that the underlying code there flips some bit, right? It's possible. Now, that code has to exist. It has to. Either it is embedded into the system or it has to be downloaded after the system starts. Our voting machines aren't to be tied to the internet like that. That's how we keep these voting machines from being hacked by outside sources. You just cut off an attack vector, basically. I can't say that that's across every single state, but that's the general rule that we're to follow. So if there was some code on there that would flip a bit, you should be able to find it. You should be able to see it. I understand people can hide code. There can be, processes that are running back, in the background. There's all sorts of ways to try to hide it. But ultimately, you should be able to grab a machine and validate it. Then, on top of that, they actually have to get to the system to do something. We have heard from the Republicans that voted for Trump in Georgia state that those voting machines were not tampered with by Dominion. They did not have access to those machines. After the election began, they did not have access to those machines. They went through, verified, blah, blah, blah. So now Rudy has to deal with a lawsuit because they've pushed this narrative so far that, as they say, has irreparably hurt their business. So we'll see where this goes. This is my main point about this. Whenever you sue somebody, there's a thing called discovery. That means the other side gets to request information. They can request whether or not Hugo Chavez came back and actually has some stake in the company that he's running this international scheme to get Trump out, right? They can do that. They can request all this information, and Dominion has to give it up, and they know this. So the fact that they put themselves, quote unquote, at risk by doing this, because Rudy's going to ask for discovery, either one or two things are going to find out. Rudy admits he was lying. Well, he's going to try to weasel his way out of it, of course, because it's Rudy. Or two, we find out that Dominion does have this international plotting scheme that happened. Either way, I'm here for it. Let's see it. All right. So this one is one that we covered quite a bit when it comes to immigration. People have forgotten. Well, let me not say people. There are some who have forgotten that we are locking people in cages still. Part of that was the zero tolerance policy, right? So actually, let me go back here. I will come back to the article in a second. For those of you that weren't paying attention, during the Trump presidency, he instituted a zero tolerance policy. That zero tolerance at the border policy meant if you crossed the border, you broke the law, you get put in a cage. That is different from the Obama policy, which Trump loved to rail against, called catch and release. You cross the border, you get put into the cage or jail until you can be deported, and then you're gone. The cages were built because we had more more people crossing than we had room for in prisons and jails. And so they built those cages. So those cages were built under Obama, but they weren't living there for months. We weren't taking kids that crossed the border and shipping them across the country, right? So a lot of these kids that came across the border that were in the cages, they ended up getting shipped off to places like Virginia. People in Virginia were up in arms because they're like, you bringing these people here that could bring the MS-13. Like, it's all this fear mongering that was happening, right? So that was part of Trump's zero tolerance policy. And that policy was intended to deter the people coming across the border. So you have the zero tolerance plus the wall. Those were his two-pronged approaches. And he had a few other things that were in there, But that created a lot of problems. A lot of problems. We have stories about forced hysterectomies and stuff that were happening to some of these women. Put them on a plane, fly them to Georgia or wherever it was, and they were forcing hysterectomies. They didn't know what was happening. They end up getting there and they're getting hysterectomies, which is just utterly tragic. And, that story needs some sourcing. It needs to be looked at a lot more, because if that's true, man, that's foul on a whole other level. But what's happening here is Biden is now rescinding this zero tolerance policy. And so his acting attorney general, Monty Wilkinson, issued a memo on Tuesday to revoke the zero tolerance immigration policy, which separated thousands of migrant children from their families at the U.S.-Mexico border. This was AP first reported that, but again, we're on Axios. Driving the news. A recent report by the Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz emphasized the internal chaos at the agency over the implementation of the policy, which resulted in 545 parents separated from their children as of October 2020. Just like, all right, forget the politics. Let's not even, at a human level, just at a human level, if you have kids, if you have nephews, nieces, if you know another human being that has children, or some children, this can't settle well with you. There's absolutely no way. You cannot tell me the party that tries to talk about human trafficking and all of this sort of stuff, they promote and they support a government that traffic these children off to other places. You can't tell me that the party that doesn't want people living off of welfare or living off of the system took kids from their parents, put them elsewhere in the country so that they could live off of the system. You cannot tell me that does not scream the hypocrisy that we're here to call out. That just completely screams hypocrisy. There's no way around it. Now, I said, let's take politics out. Now I went to politics. Let's take the politics out. The people, again, you know a child, or you have seen a child. You were once a child. Imagine being separated from your parents. Just imagine. Imagine losing your parents for a day. You speak English. You find somebody. Depending on your age, you say, hey, my name is John. I lost my parents, their names, blah, blah, blah. You find your parents. I live in Pearland. I live in Houston. I live in Richmond, Bay City, whatever. I live here. My parents, I don't know their number, but, blah, blah, blah. They take you to the authorities, and eventually you find your parents. kids who are kidnapped, and you know, whether it's for some sort of trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever, kids that are kidnapped, the parents will spend the rest of their lives until they find their child wondering what's happened to their child, blaming themselves, all sorts of stuff. Like it's tragic. The kid will grow up having issues, trying to understand why their parent didn't come get them, blah blah blah. Like it's all these avenues, all of this stress, strain, and mental issues that this is going to cause. Just from a human level, I don't even care about the legality of them coming here. Just at the human level, just think about it. I feel like I should do a Matthew McConaughey. Now close your eyes. Imagine they were white. Flip the movie on you. Like just for real, think about it. We're literally 545 parents. That's at least 500. Well, not at least, because it could be husband, wife. But let's just say it's several hundred children at a minimum have been separated from their parents. And it could potentially be more because it could be two children or three children or four children that they brought over separated. And in some of these cases, they can't even find, they don't even know where the kids are. Like this, when we're talking legacies of presidents, this is going to like, there's so many stains on the Trump presidency. Like, there's so many to talk about. Everybody can pick their favorite stain. Every president has a stain on their legacy. Obama had, Yemen, and of course, the right's going to focus on Benghazi, and he bombed people, with drones, all these drone strikes, stuff like that, right? Like, there's blemishes. I don't care which president. There's blemishes. You even go back to Reagan. You got the savings and loan crisis, and anyway, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but you get the point. Every president has a blemish. Trump has a lot of them, but this one is just like the issues that it will cause, and is currently causing, will reverberate for a while, and it did nothing to fix immigration issues, not a thing. So back to the article. Sorry, just had to rant. What they're saying is, consistent with longstanding principles of making individualized assessments in criminal cases, I am rescinding effective immediately the policy directive. This was Wilkinson that wrote in the memo. This is per the AP. He added that the DOJ's standards have long emphasized that decisions about bringing criminal charges should involve not only a determination that a federal offense has been committed, mind you, this is not a federal offense to cross over the border illegally. It's not. See, there's so many rabbit. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna hold back, but there's so many rabbit holes. It's long emphasized that decisions about bringing criminals should be federal offense has been committed, and the admissible evidence will probably be sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction, but should also take into account other individualized factors, including personal circumstances and criminal history, the seriousness of the offense, and the probable sentence of other consequences that will result from a conviction. That's the way America works, right? Like, we're a country of laws unless you do something that I don't like, and then we can just forget it. You don't have any laws. You're not even an American citizen. You don't have the same laws, right? So we're just going to violate your human rights, right? You don't have American rights, so we're just going to violate your human rights. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like a political system and a party you should support, right? Nah, get out of here. So along these lines, I could rant about immigration forever. Texas judge temporarily halts Biden's 100-day deportation freeze. A federal judge in Texas has temporarily blocked the Biden administration's 100-day freeze on deporting unauthorized immigrants. Biden has set an ambitious immigration agenda, but he could face pushback from the courts. U.S. District Judge Drew Tipton, a Trump appointee, issued a temporary restraining order blocking the policy for 14 days. the worst attorney general in the country, Texas AG Ken Paxton, sued the Biden administration last week, claiming the freeze violates the Constitution, federal immigration and administrative law, and contractual agreement between Texas and the Department of Homeland Security. Take my distaste for Ken Paxton out of it, but this is something. This is like part of the process. Not even mad at the whole process. This is part of the thing, right? Like, if it violates the Constitution, bring forth the case. We'll see. The issues implicated by that agreement are of such gravity and constitutional import that they require further development of the record and briefing prior to addressing the merits. That's what Tipton wrote in his Tuesday order. Tipton also said Texas has provided evidence that the freeze would result in millions of dollars of damage by spurring an increase in spending on public services for unauthorized immigrants, according to the judge's order. This is what they're saying. Texas is the first, that's in all caps, interesting, state in the nation, oh, it's a tweet, no wonder, to bring a lawsuit against the Biden admin, and we won, Paxton tweeted. I don't know why he's yelling. Within 6 days of Biden's inauguration, Texas has halted his illegal deportation freeze. The other side. We're confident that that as the case proceeds, it will be clear that this measure was wholly appropriate in ordering a temporary pause to allow the agency to carefully review its policies, procedures, and enforcement priorities, while allowing for a greater focus on threats to public safety and national security, from a White House spokesperson. Of note, President Trump was frequently met with injunctions for his immigration policies. And that's, again, this is why I read Axios, right? Like, they're not going to leave out the clarity here that this isn't just the Republicans fighting the Democrats. On one hand, yes, that's absolutely what it is. On the other hand, there's legal issues here, right? Halting a deportation freeze. That does not mean halting arrest. Okay, like let's pay attention to the specifics here. This was a deportation freeze, not a let's just let people come in freely and let's have open borders, right? Like, it doesn't matter what Biden does on immigration. They're going to try to go harder and harder than what he wants to go. So this completely expected. Let the court have their say. Let them go through the process. This is what it is, right? All right. So I want to. There's a few different ways that I want to kind of finish off these last segments. I'm unsure which way I want to go. I halfway want to laugh at Trump. But then I also want to talk about racial equality or equity. So let's do both. Okay. All right. So this isn't related to why I want to laugh at Trump, but let's take a look at this article here. So Trump political team disavows Patriot Party groups. Again on Axios. Donald Trump's still active presidential campaign committee officially disavowed political groups affiliated with the nascent Patriot Party on Monday. Trump briefly floated the possibility of creating a new political party to compete with the GOP with him at the helm, but others have formed their own Patriot Party entities during the past week, and Trump's team wants to make clear it has nothing to do with them. Donald J. Trump for President, Inc., the former president's official campaign committee, filed a notice with the FEC officially distancing itself from a new Patriot Party PAC. DJTFP, there's some initials for you, is placing this disavowal notice on the public record out of concern for confusion among the public, right? So, all right, no real big deal here. We are not supportive of this effort, have nothing to do with it, and only know about it through public reporting, Miller said in a text message. Right, so the reason I want to laugh at this whole thing, and it's also noted down here, another group formed on Monday, the MAGA Patriot Party National Committee, also claimed falsely to have a similar agreement. The reason I'm laughing here is not particularly about the Patriot Party. It's about relevance. And I should have pulled it up, but I don't have it. I'm not even going to bother going to look for it and try to talk while I find it. But Trump put out a statement saying that he has an official committee and the people or official group that he's working with that's taking care of his communications and so basically he has his own quote unquote administration again in Florida, and they're going to be handling communication and all these sort of things for him. And it's just like, yeah, just walk into the sunset, man. You supposedly have millions in cash. Just walk into the sunset. Let it go. Like you're not relevant anymore. People aren't seeking out your latest tweet. You can't even tweet. So just let it go. Just let it go. It reminds me of when I first started losing my hairline. Right? I just held on just a little too long. Just it was like just a hair past. Actually, it was a lot of hairs. It was a lot of hairs past the point where I should have kept it. I mean, it was just like I took a picture for my driver's license, and when I got the picture back, it looked like I had shaved my head, but I hadn't shaved my head. My hairline was just back enough, and I didn't even have my head tilted back. I was like straight profile, straight forward, and you just saw like a sliver of curve up on the top of my head. I said, "Oh, it's time to go." Yeah, I held on to it a little too long, just a little too long. It was time. It was time. It's time for Trump to just move on. You don't need to put out press releases about what. What's your press release gonna be about? This is nothing more than just him trying to stay relevant. Just retire in peace and just live the rest of your days away from all this stuff. You failed. Here's what it is. Make America great again. It ended worse than it started. So, guess that didn't quite work out. All right, so I'm not going to read this article. It's just bringing this up just for clarity because it speaks to Biden's first week. We're coming up on Biden's first official week tomorrow. It'll be 7 days in office. And this transgender ban was something that we spoke about quite a bit. And the reason why I wanted to show it, because it brings us to like the next phase here. Biden is essentially trying to, well, in this case, he's getting rid of one of Trump's, you know, orders, along with the border article we just looked at, right? Like, so he's kind of going back and getting rid of some of these things that Trump did. Okay, all right, cool, all well and good. But what he's also doing, if you're watching the things that he's trying to push right now in these first 7 days, is he's trying to level the playing field. You may disagree wholly that the playing field is unlevel, but just take your favorite podcast host at his word. The playing field is unlevel in many fashions. The transgender ban, the right went all all fiscal conservative on this when Trump did it and fully supported it. Mind you, these are people who you would normally call a patriot, right? You would call these people patriots. Why? Because they are sacrificing their lives for you. But they're transgender. So, oh no, we can't have that. No, 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 no. Oh, wait a minute. You're black? No, no, no. You can't serve in the armed forces. You're black. Oh, no, no, no. Wait. You're a woman? No, 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 no. You can't serve in the armed forces. You're a woman. Wait. You're gay? Oh, whoa. Don't ask, don't tell. That's what I saw when the transgender ban happened. That's what that's what it read to me. And they went fiscal conservative because they tried to say that, oh, well, we're spending $5 million a year on transgenders to deal with, their surgeries and this, that, and other, blah, blah, blah. Well, shortly thereafter, we find out that the armed forces are spending 10 to 15 million a year on Viagra. So, transgenders out, Viagra's in. This is what I mean by hypocrisy. I'm just on a rant mode tonight. I don't know. I'm on a rant. I missed the Sunday and I'm on a rant. I can't help it. But this falls in line with what seems like to me Biden is setting up to do. I could be completely wrong here. I don't know. It's literally, he's been in office Wednesday part of the day because he's not in office until noon. That's when he officially takes over. So Wednesday's a half a day, but let's just say he's in office on Wednesday, okay? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's 3 days. Let's just say he takes take a weekend off. Monday, Tuesday, 5 days. He's been in office 5 days, and people are expecting him to have fixed COVID. I'm sorry. It's funny because I'm having these conversations with people, but people are mad because he hasn't fixed COVID, hasn't fixed the economic stimulus, like all these things. He hasn't fixed it. He's blowing it. He's completely off the rails. It's 5 days now. I do not hold out hope. I said it last week on the podcast. I'll say it again. I don't hold out a lot of hope that Biden is going to be super effective at his job. I'm not one of those that's a fan of presidents anymore or politicians in general. I'm not a fan. You're going to have to prove yourself to me, right? But what I'm seeing, it's a little bit heavy-handed for me because I need to see, color me a little more skeptical here. But what I'm seeing is it looks like Biden is trying to level the playing field. And what do I mean by that? So, transgender ban, right? Let's stop dealing with people based on, certain criteria, right? Let's stop playing this identity politics, quote unquote, right? Same thing that the right says the left does too much of, which the left absolutely plays identity politics, but the right does as well. Let's just stop playing these identity politics. If you want to serve this country and you want to sacrifice your life, welcome. We love you for it. Right? So along those lines, we've seen that Biden has moved in this article here. Biden signs racial equity executive orders. Where this goes is to be seen, right? We have to kind of see what exactly is going to happen with these. But we need to see. I'm keeping an open mind, but I don't have a lot of hope in government. So this is the big picture. I'm not going to go through, I have a couple of these teed up. I'm not going to go through every single line here, but this is the big picture. Biden needs to support a Congress to push through police reform or new voting rights legislation. The executive order serves his down payment to immediately address systemic racism, which he focuses on while he focuses on the pandemic. So he's going to direct the Department of the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to examine how previous administrations undermined fair housing policies and laws. And so this is another executive order, which is, it's common with presidents these days. Bush signed a lot. Obama signed more. Trump signed more. I wouldn't be surprised if Biden signed more than Trump, which more than Obama, which more than Bush, which more than Clinton. Like, it's just this is the way that things are going. So the one executive order calls for reestablishing federal respect for tribal sovereignty, which is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, is that I believe we've done these folks wrong, man. Like, we just have. We've done them wrong, and we need to honor it. We need to honor the agreements that we have after taking and killing and just straight genocide against them. We should just, how about let's just honor our agreements? Huh? Maybe. So, wrong article. Da, 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 da. I didn't have it up. Okay, so there was other stuff that Biden was doing, and he was basically along the same lines of trying to essentially, as I said, level the playing field when it comes to equity, racial equity. Again, I don't know. I don't know where this goes. Doing it by executive order, yeah. I mean, you already see Trump pushed all those executive orders. What is Biden doing? He's just coming right after him and just getting rid of them. Right? That's not the way laws are made in this country. That's the way we can do something temporarily. We can try to force something through. Biden got rid of the Muslim ban. Great. We needed to get rid of that. Right? So these things are important to get rid of, but I need to see something actionable. There's word that he's going to fast track Harriet Tubman to be on the $20 bill. That's going to do nothing, right? In the short term, it's not going to do anything. Do I support it? Sure. Why not? Do it. I mean, I don't use cash really anyway. But, do it. There's a lot of people that still deal with cash. It's fine by me. I mean, who really cares what face is on there, right? Now, the same people who probably have a problem with doing it, if you told them they were going to put Trump on there, they'd probably be A-okay. The same people that want Harriet, if you put Trump on there, they'd probably be not A-okay. And, so it's just one of those things that they're going to continue to go back and forth on those kind of frivolous things. Is what it is. I don't care. It's noise. It's not substance. It's noise. So it's going to be important to see what he truly does. Now, if you recall, Trump had this whole platinum plan, which I just completely believe that was an outright lie. He worked with Cube. They kind of got this thing that kind of worked off of Cube's agreement that he had kind of put together, the contract with Black America. But we've heard so many promises for stuff that after a while, it's like, show me. That's what I want to see. Show me. So with Biden, show me. Like, you started out 5 days in office so far, 7, actual days. Okay, you're saying some things about racial equity, but let me see. Let me see what the police reform looks like. Let me see it actually get codified into law. Let me see it actually implemented in states. Then we can talk about success or failure, right? Yes, get the conversation started. That's important. I'm with you. That's something that has to happen at some point. But before I go out and I start clapping and trumpeting, not trumpeting, but like trumpet. Before I start blaring to the heavens that you are great at your job, show me. That's what I got to see. And I hope you holding your politician to the same level of scrutiny. Because if we're not, we're going to end up with people who decide on the first day, the next president's in office, that we should impeach him for something he did 4 years ago when he wasn't president. And then we're going to get other people who don't want to deal with Trump, who hasn't been president for 7 days over the insurrection. They don't want to deal with that impeachment trial, which was part of the article that I showed we didn't get to today, but they don't want to deal with that impeachment trial. Let's just move on. He's out of office. It's unprecedented. There's nothing that we can do. What are we going to do? We're going to impeach George Washington next? This is all the stuff they're saying, right? Anyway, I'm not going to keep ranting. Hi. So, we're the Political Free Agents. You can catch us when our computer's not reformatting and updating. You can catch us Sunday at 2 p.m. and Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're live every week. You can also catch us pushing the same live feed right there on Facebook. Hit us up, facebook.com/PFA podcast. Hit up the site. You can find all these links at politicalfreeagents.com or pfapodcast.com. Make sure you go check it out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe somewhere down here. Hey, if you're listening on the podcast, rate us, review us, give us the 5 stars. And as Bomani Jones said, if you don't give us 5 stars, I'm inclined to believe you're a hater. Anyway, it's been fun, y'all.